Hi, I thought today would be a good day to answer some questions about what's going on with me. Today I start a week of chemotherapy, which has been postponed about 10 times now. It's been postponed because my blood tests were not good enough for me to receive chemo. In other words, I wasn't healthy enough. My white count was still is pretty much zero. Although there hasn't been much improvement the last couple of tests, it was decided that since it had been postponed so many times, we needed to get the chemo going. And what's happened during the start of chemo and up until now maybe will help some others. It has not been easy. Um, each time I've had chemo, I've been terribly ill. In fact, the week following chemo, I've been in the hospital as an inpatient. During the time when I wasn't in the hospital, which was which was not fun. The beds are not comfortable. The nurses have to wake you up every couple hours to do vital. I was in intensive care in isolation each time. And uh, during the times I was home, that hasn't been so much fun either. My blood tests indicate that I'm not improving, so I will be meeting with the oncologist this week. Uh, we'll see what she has to say. Really nice doctor, and I'm very happy to have her taking care of me. The medication they're using is called Dacogen, and it has huge side effects, as do all chemotherapies, I suspect. Um, some of them have been things like, and along with the disease, um, just spontaneous vomiting, which isn't fun to talk about, but we've had to place strategically around the house stainless steel bowls to take care of that when it happens. And my wife has gotten good at swapping out the bowls as I have my head bent over and doing what emptying out my stomach. Um, the disease that I have was shown to be a little bit worse in the last bone marrow aspiration. The bone marrow aspirations, I've had three of those. They are the most painful thing I've ever been through. So the last time I got the doctor to agree to give me some pain medication, which was a large dose of morphine and fentanyl to really put me out of it, and that did help. For this video, I wrote some notes, and I'm kind of reading from them on a computer screen, um, not in any particular order. Bone pain has been at sometimes severe, and it's again part of the disease that I have. It's like somebody stabbing your bone with a knife. Much the same pain that I had when they were doing the bone marrow aspiration, as they stick in what looks like a little bit like a gun, almost like a squirt gun, and it goes into the bone and it sucks out bone marrow. And they have to do that several times to get a good sample. As they suck it out, it changes the pressure inside the bone, and that hurts from your toe to your head. It is just unreal. Um, the times I've been admitted, a couple of them were unplanned and unforeseen. One was I'm in Rockland, California. The next city up the highway is Lincoln. And in Lincoln, there's a Kaiser facility, so we would go there for the blood tests, and those are being done twice a week. So I get through with a round of chemo, and it's time to do a blood test, and my wife parks the car, and I get out. I'm using a walker at this point, and now I have to use a wheelchair. So I start to walk in. I run out of breath about 30 feet in on my way into the door. And again, I get to the door and I'm out of breath again. And I get inside and I go to register, and there's two people taking registration. They've got glass shields, and I'm wearing a mask, of course. Um, and when I go to register, the lady that was doing the registration, who's also a phlebotomist, said, "Do you feel okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'll be okay." Now, I had stopped for breath, and she didn't know it. So, next place you go is around the corner for the blood draw, and there's like 3 stations. And one of the ladies is in the first station, and she looks at me and she says, "Sit down." And I said, "No, I think I'll stand. I just want to stand for a few minutes." And she said, "No, sit down. I'm calling for emergency people to come in and look at you," which they did do. They put me in another room. Um, Nurses come rushing into the room from doctor's offices, and they have an EKG machine and the rest of the stuff. And one of the nurses says to the other nurse, "Call 911." So they call 911. Uh, 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 Fire personnel arrive first, and so they're in the room, and it's just a little tiny room. It's maybe 10 by 15 at the most. And then next thing I know, the ambulance folks are there. So I asked them to call my wife because she was in the parking lot, didn't know what was going on, didn't know it was me. Saw the ambulance and the fire truck show up, and thought, "Oh boy, somebody's in trouble." Well, the person in trouble was me. So ended up in the hospital for a week. The diagnosis at admission was organ failure. Another time, we're home, and I'd had again a blood draw done, and on my left arm, from the side of the blood draw, it became infected, inflamed, and we thought it would go away. And the next day, it got really bad, and so it got so bad, and I was feeling so bad that we called 911, which we normally would have just driven to the hospital. So they arrive, and again, I've got a massive infection that at that point had stretched from my armpit down to my wrist, and it was determined to be sepsis and cellulitis. So for the next week, I'm in the hospital with bags of antibiotics going in and fluids, saline. So they're running that full time. And the other time we drove to the hospital, and it was again not fun. And not fun. At that time, I had to wait in the emergency room for hours to finally get in to see a doctor, and then I was immediately admitted, and should not have had to wait in the emergency room so long. But it was one of those things. Along with the 3 admissions to the hospital, again, I'm reading off a list. I've had 11 transfusions, which isn't good because it tends to create a lot of iron in the body from what I've read, and my iron level now is sky high. And I don't know if I could have another transfusion if I needed it. They look at the hemoglobin. My hemoglobin right now is 7.4. When it dips below 7.2, at that point I'm just so weak that they do want to do a transfusion. As to whether or not they would do it again, I don't know. Um, the Let's see, I'm still looking at my list. The medication they're giving is called Dacogen, Dacogen, and it has huge side effects. And the list is just really long. And it's pretty much anything and everything you could ever think of. And it's as if they've created this list from every kind of complaint they could have possibly gotten. As I said, the cancer cells have increased in my bone marrow, unfortunately. So I suspect when we talk to the oncologist this week that she's going to recommend yet another round of chemotherapy and perhaps a more powerful drug. I have a port now right here in my chest, which is irritating and itching, and it's under the skin. And so they poke through the skin into a thing that looks like a pincushion. They push in saline and then draw out blood when they're doing a blood draw. So now my blood draws are done in oncology because it takes a specialist and special equipment to do it. how am I doing otherwise? Folks have said you look pretty good in the videos, and that's true. Sometimes I've changed my skin color on purpose in post to try to make it look better than it is. I'm pretty gray. Right now, my white count is terribly low, and my red count is even lower than it has been. So, um, videos. Folks who are watching this may be watching it because of the title where I'm going to mention the cancer. The videos that uh, I do them on days where I feel better, not the best, but just better. And some days I have the energy to do it early in the morning. And so I'll do what I can do. And then sometimes the video's been recorded over several days because I begin to lose energy as I'm doing them. Um, Also, on some days, like yesterday, I slept all day. Got up in the morning, had lunch. My son came by here. We did something together for a few minutes. And then I went back to bed. And next thing I knew, it was 7 o'clock. So I had slept virtually 12 hours at that point. So many days I sleep, not because of medications, just because of the fatigue that goes with. Some of it is with the chemo, the rest of it is with the disease. So a lot of days are spent just laying down in bed or sometimes just in the recliner. Back to videos. As I said, videos are a performance, and as such, I'm trying to perform. And in one of the videos back, I wanted it to be sort of entertaining and funny because of something that I was doing, and so that's part of it. I have to get myself going. Sometimes videos take several takes. Another thing that I'm going through is spontaneous falling asleep. Um, I just sometimes will just head down and out of it. And it's been upsetting for me because sometimes I'm in the middle of recording a video and fall asleep, which when you're performing and you're trying to be up and excited about what you're doing and thinking about the process, to just immediately fall asleep is distressing. And so I've deleted those. I don't even want to look at them. I've fallen asleep during some Zoom meetings with a group of guys. Um, and some of the folks that were watching that were upset by it. Others concerned. A couple of folks expressed that maybe I shouldn't return to the group, and that seems to be the decision of a couple, and so I pretty much stayed away. Um, the pain medications that I've had to take include oxycodone, but just one or two of those, hydrocodone, and tramadol, because the muscle pain and bone pain can really hurt, and there's not much you can do about it. And if you can't sleep, sometimes, and which is my case, if I can't sleep, it's the only thing that I can really take and try to get some sleep at night. Again, if you have any questions, post them below. If you have any comments, post those too. And again, this is not a ham radio video so much as it is a video about how I'm doing, and it may relate to others who are going through the same thing. My name is Jim. I'm in Rockland, California. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to leave in a little while to go start the next round of chemotherapy.